right.
何それ
What's going on, guys? How you guys doing today?
How's it going?
Doing good. It's just hot.
Before we get started, I'll have you guys just maybe quickly tell everybody about who you are, what you do, and all that good stuff. So let's start with Yoko. You want to go first?
All right.
何それ
All right. Hi, you guys. My name is Yoko. I am June's sister. I do animal rescue here in Los Angeles, and I also work for a mobile veterinarian. Yay!
And by the way, your rescue name is LA Adopt, right?
Yes, it's LA Adopt.
LA Adopt. Yeah, so if you guys want to see what Yoko's up to, check out LA Adopt on Instagram, and you'll find out what she's up to. And Ayumi?
Hello, my name is Ayumi, and I am now 29 years old. I am a dog trainer, and I've been training for over 10 years, I think. So I've been a dog trainer for over 10 years, have had my own business for 3 years now, and my business name is called Paw by Paw, which is actually derived from Ayumi, which means step by step, so Paw by Paw.
How would you describe each other in 3 words if you had to? I'll go with Ayumi first then. Introverted yet outspoken.
I think that's actually pretty spot on.
If you're in a social situation, I think obviously you'll go and mingle, but I think you enjoy your time alone. But if there is something that is on your mind, or if there's something that needs to be said, you're like the first one to say it. Nothing will stop you from, you'll say it, right?
I'll say it, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yoko, I have a big-hearted defiant, if that makes any sense.
That's good. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So she is by far the biggest heart that I've ever met on this planet, right? She'll give the shirt off her back to an ant that's crossing the street. You know, she'll save that ant to make sure that it doesn't get killed by anything.
Yep.
But at the same time, she has real issues with authority figures, right? Especially if you're in a person of power and they tell you what to do, Yoko will go the other way for sure.
Yeah.
And I would say June is always balanced.
Yeah.
Balanced?
Yeah. I feel like you're the type of person, it's never right or left. You're always kind of right in the middle first.
Mm-hmm.
And asking you for opinion, it's like you would think from both sides of the story, you know, not one way. And that's probably what the word for that is, but that's you.
Yeah.
Typically, June's pretty quiet. And, you don't like to get into arguments very much, but when that time comes, you come hard. And it's kind of like, oh, where did that come from, And then I'm just sitting there ooh, this is interesting, So, but you are very equal in both parts, and you like to create balance and harmony in situations.
How about you? What are some words to describe us?
Yoko is definitely loud, but she's loving and caring at the same time. I know that's 3 already, but loud, loving and caring, and what is that word I'm trying to think of? It's kind of I can't think of the word. It's she's like a surprise.
She is like a surprise.
In a good way,
yeah.
But just a surprise.
Spontaneous,
you never,
maybe?
I think that's the word. Yeah, spontaneous, because you kind of never know what you're going to get with Yoko sometimes.
Yeah.
It's a surprise. And for June, I would say balanced is a good one. He's very balanced. You're chill, and it's not a word, it's a sentence. You just know how to create a good time, regardless of where you're at and what the situation is. You'll always make a good time out of it. So whatever word that will describe that.
Mixing English and Japanese. Do you guys do that?
All the time.
Yeah. When do you think you do that? When do you think you mix English and all of a sudden start speaking Nihongo?
I do it at home a lot. Just if I'm getting up, I'm Yosho. I'm just always saying always stuff like that. And then I'll be talking to Enrique and tell him something, and he'll be like, what does that mean? like, oh yeah, I was speaking to you in Japanese and I didn't even realize, you know,
Yeah.
or we're watching something in Japanese and I laugh, but he doesn't get it. I'm like, oh yeah, I have to translate that for you.
Yeah.
Little things like that. But definitely with mom, I always do like combination.
Yeah.
Japanese, English.
Definitely, especially like talking to my Japanese fosters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, there's certain words I don't, you know, it's like it's definitely English, Japanese, everything all in one sentence.
Yeah, all mixed up, huh?
Yeah, it's like, 誰かさん thank you so much for fostering.
Fostering. Just make it sound Japanese, right? Ayumi, you said it too. I think you said something about being mendokusai, like in this conversation we had. Yeah. So there's like mendokusai is like one of those words where the word mendokusai is just the only word you can use in that situation, right? There's no like English word that can be translated to mendokusai when you know the meaning of mendokusai in Japanese, right?
Yeah, like you could say like pain in the ass and stuff, but it's like mendokusai is mendokusai, and it's just you get it.
Yeah.
I definitely use otsukare a lot with Enrique. I say ohayo and oyasumi every day to him, and goso-sama.
Goso-sama.
If he makes me something, I'll always say that, and he'll say it too.
That's true.
Itadakimasu. Yeah. Do you guys ever think in Japanese?
No, not really.
No.
I don't think so either. No.
Like when you're speaking in Japanese, do you like what's like the thought process like for you? Like for me, when I'm speaking in Japanese, my mind definitely goes into like 100% Japanese mode. How about like Yoko? How about you? Like when you're speaking Japanese, donna kanji?
I really think about it.
You have to really think about it.
Yeah, I think it's vice versa. Like Japanese people learning English, right? When you're writing something, you really think about it versus something you don't, you know.
Yeah.
So when I'm writing to my Japanese fosters, I have to really think.
Is there like ever a moment where you feel more Japanese than American or more American than Japanese, depending on like the situation?
For me, like I think in general, I have more Japanese tendencies, just like my mannerisms. Like when I went on like a second date with Enrique, I'd always cover my mouth when I'm eating. And like if I laugh, I cover my mouth, and it's just a natural thing for me to do because I just never felt comfortable like with my mouth open.
Yeah.
And you know, typically I'm pretty quiet, and I like kind of go like this a lot, like bowing in a way, or just like the way I understand things. So I feel like in that sense, I have Japanese mannerisms, but majority of the time, everything else is pretty American.
気が利く, right? That's like very Japanese culture-ish, you know, whenever you're working, like notice something, the extra, you know, that's very important. That's, I think, the Japanese part. We take a lot to make sure that, you know, you're seeing things that not even just what you're told. That aspect, and also 空気が読める人.
Yeah.
Take that in consideration a lot, right? Because in that very Japanese side, I think those two of making sure, you know, 100% when it comes to that, I think we use that side of us, you know?
Yeah, like I kind of feel like that's also, it can be a bad thing too about Japanese people because we're too critical of the way other people feel about us. And that was like my biggest issue. And I feel like that was a very Japanese part of me where, you know, if someone makes like a weird face, I'm like, oh my God, did I say something wrong? And so then I keep thinking I did something wrong, you know, and I'm like, oh my God, do they not like me now? And I feel that Japanese people are very critical of themselves just based on simple conversations, which can be a bad thing too. And I had to teach myself that it's like, just because someone responds a different way than what you're expecting doesn't mean you did anything wrong. And I think like that's still something that I'm trying to work on right now, but it's a big thing because as Japanese people, we're very respectful, you know, like Yoko said, but we can be overly respectful where we're not respecting ourselves in return.
Japanese food or American food for you guys, if you had to
Japanese.
choose one?
Yeah.
Japanese.
Is there a favorite Japanese food that you have?
I think, well, mine would have to be ramen in Japan only.
What's your favorite Japanese food, Yoko?
God, I love my curry.
The curry.
Curry is number 2 for me.
Curry
That's number 2.
Sure. Yeah.
And karaage.
Karaage. Yeah.
Karaage is my favorite.
Of course.
Korokke.
You would.
Love my potatoes.
You do. You do.
I think we could all agree that Japanese mayo is way better than American mayo.
Oh my God. Cannot compare. Like, love. Kewpie.
Kewpie love.
Kewpie.
Yeah.
Like the best thing ever created.
I agree, though. Can't live without that. And maybe
furikake. I don't think I've used furikake in so long.
I have. I bought a pack and I'm like, I can't believe I haven't used it for so long. It's so good.
How about just like general thoughts on like Japan? Like when you guys went to Japan, the Japanese culture, you guys have like any thoughts on that?
Love it. You know, everyone's so polite, so clean, so friendly. They're, you know, to themselves, where they're not trying to like talk to you all the time, which is kind of the annoying part about American people, is just always wanting to strike a conversation. It's like sometimes you just don't want to talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that about Japan because everyone's to themselves. Everyone's quiet and just respectful.
What was it like growing up being half American and half Japanese? Did you guys have like your struggles that you kind of went through? Did you ever go through like an identity crisis kind of thing?
I think I did, for sure.
Identity crisis?
I went through a lot of stuff because, you know, for me, I don't look half at all.
Mm-hmm.
No one can ever guess that I'm half. And I'm tall for an Asian-looking person. So when I'm hanging out with my friends, I stick out like a sore thumb, and I felt awkward. And I'm generally very thick compared to my Asian friends. So I just felt always big, you know, like anytime I went to clubs and stuff, I'm like taller than all the guys there. So I'm like overlooking everyone, and I'm just like, this is weird. Like, I don't feel like I belong here, you know?
Yeah.
But then I was different amongst all my friends because no one liked the same music as I did. Mm-hmm. So then that was my difference of like having to find other friends who enjoyed what I do, or, you know, what I like. And that was always hard for me too, because I was very different from everyone else, I feel.
Just for the record, Ayumi's 5'9".
Ayumi is 5'9". Yoko, you're pretty tall too. You're what, 5'7"?
7?
5'6".
Oh, 5'6".
So Yoko's 5'6", Ayumi's 5'9", and I'm about 6'1". My group of friends were generally like Asian American people, right? And Yoko on the other side were, I wouldn't just say like American people, but you like had complete opposite types of friends than I did growing up.
Right. Like being in the multicultural friends or groups, you're just accepted, you know? There was no like, it was just a different experience from going to school with all Japanese people, right? It was like, I related more to the multicultural because we always feel like we're not one thing, you know? And all the friends were also mixed and half. So I felt like it was people who actually got us, you know, like they get me.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's a wrap for our very first siblings podcast episode. Well, thank you guys very much, and hope to see you guys again somewhere down the line in one of the future episodes on Hapa英会話.
Thanks for having us.